And we are live, another episode of the Post Republic. It's August 20th, 2025. I'm Adrian here with my co hosts Steve, Silas, and Tyler with a very special guest, Karen Jones. Super excited about this, but Tyler's got the news rundown and we'll get into it.
Okay, we got an illegal alien semi-truck driver makes illegal U-turn, causing a fatal car crash, killing 3 Americans in Florida. His commercial driver's license was issued to him in California, if you can believe it. Department of Homeland Security claims they have deported 324,000 illegal aliens since January. They also claim 1.6 million illegal aliens have self-deported. President Trump meets with Putin for a peace summit in Alaska. Zelenskyy meets with Trump at the White House and actually wears a suit. Trump announces an executive order targeting mail-in ballots. Andrew Yang calls to make voting to be easier by allowing people to vote by their phone. Elon Musk announces he plans to back JD Vance and give up on his third party. Redistricting battle in Texas continues. We have a man arrested in the UK for saying he loves bacon because it offends the Muslims. Liberals try to steal the MAGA strategy, attempting to meme Gavin Newsom into office. Well, we got a bunch of juicy stories here. I'm interested in the mail-in ballot thing. I really do think that mail-in balloting was the how do I say? It was the secret plan of the deep state to steal the 2020 election using COVID as a pretense to do that. Can is it fair to say that everybody in the room agrees that 2020 was stolen?
I am certain that it was. And I was in a really interesting group immediately after the election called the Dead Voters Society. And it had some heavy hitters in it. And I was only in there because, I have proximity to interesting people. So there were all kinds of people trying to reverse engineer results. There were people, experts on code stuff. I don't really want to name too many of the names you'd recognize, but I can say some of the people that were indicted for election interference or fraud in Georgia, like Rudy Giuliani, Bernard Kerik, they were in this group. A lot of names you would recognize. And my small contribution in the group, because I really don't have a lot of skills other than a memory and an obsession with politics, I helped a statistician from Claremont on the congregant living, where all of a sudden you had 100% return of those mail-in ballots of these people who were locked down. And there's always a lot of cheating that goes on in nursing homes or congregant living situations, but families would intervene. Some people had their sons, daughters checking, Mom, did you get your ballot? So anyway, the stuff that I was learning from this signal group, the Dead Voters, I already knew it was stolen, but I had the facts on my side as well. And then what happened is so many of those people in that group, including two people who blame each other for starting the group, had nothing happen to them. And one flipped and is, waving a Biden flag immediately, and a recognizable name in the conservative community. And the other one, same deal. So there I go talking too much, but this isn't my opinion. I know that 2020 was covering up for other stuff that they had done. And COVID, yes, was a pretext, but then they also had to cover up for COVID.
Yeah.
It was crazy what happened, and it's been building forever.
Mm-hmm.
But especially, we got to say, the Clintons did some pretty nasty stuff. And at the time, when people would tell me 9/11 was an inside job, I was a good little Republican, and I never told them, shut up, you're not allowed to say that. Hey, I'm going to turn you in for saying 9/11. I would always say, tell me more. but I never accepted it was an inside job. Although I thought there could be some insiders, I didn't think it was carried out by our government, and I do now.
Well, they outsourced, when you're a good successful company and you need to get something done, sometimes you got to outsource to another company that can do it better than you can.
Yeah, and keep your hands clean. That's one of the nice things about being rich is you can have other people eat your shit.
Yeah, they always use proxies, it seems, to do some of the dirty work, and then that way they have some plausible deniability. But I feel like they're, searching through the records and finding, the proof of, it's just so much collusion on so many levels, not just the mail-in ballots, but, in the news, it's everyone from Barack to Hillary that were involved in trying to pretty much sabotage Trump and the American people.
Right. We are the ultimate crime victims in this, even though it's rare for me to call myself a victim, but just using that term, the targets of the crime were us because we own this country. As individuals, we have given the government permission to do these things and have this control, but only as long as they have our consent. And so they were trying to strip us of our consent.
So do you guys think that Trump does he have constitutional authority to actually sign in an executive order and get rid of that mail-in balloting? Because the Constitution does seem to be pretty clear about states' rights to control and operate their own elections. But the problem is that if California is rigging their elections and they have, say, the most electoral votes, they're essentially hurting other states. And so how can you actually get this mail-in balloting thing done properly? Does it need to go through Congress, or are we just kind of stuck with it?
Where's a lawyer when you need one? Because I believe that this has been, some part of this has been to the Supreme Court, and that it does not apply. The federal elections have certain entitlement that state and local elections don't. But I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really speak to that. But where mail-in voting started originally was the Republican Party. Abraham Lincoln, Civil War. He was not a definite re-election guy. The war was going on. Of course, the Confederates were already out of the voting. They said, we're not in your country anymore. But even the people that remained eligible to vote for president for Lincoln's second term, there were plenty of people that were not in favor of him. The war was pretty unpopular. But he said Lincoln was great. He was great, really good politician. And he said, these guys are out there fighting and dying. Don't you think we should make it possible for them to vote and have a say? That's how it all started. And then it went to sick people and et cetera, et cetera. But I remember growing up, voting by mail, you needed a doctor's note. It was a process. So this easy voting stuff is, we talked earlier about direct democracy and the problems with it. It really turns into might makes right when everybody can just vote with a phone, or you can print a bunch of ballots off.
Well, let me make a distinction, because mail-in voting is a tradition, or there is precedent for it for military personnel and for sick people. But universal mail-in ballots, unsolicited universal mail-in ballots, might be the proper distinction.
And does anywhere else in the developed world do what we do in the United States with mail-in ballots? Because I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I think you are correct, and I'm quite sure that we're the only country that keeps counting until we get the desired outcome.
Yeah, and that doesn't require an ID for voting either.
Yes.
So rigged.
It's rigged, right? And so I guess one of the reasons why I brought up the, obviously rigged 2020 election is because if it was rigged, then the January 6th protesters would have legitimate reason to actually protest. Whereas the liberals and the Democrats and the deep state, they say, "Oh, well they didn't get the result that they wanted, and so they were there to perform an insurrection, to take over the government, even though they didn't bring any weapons or anything like that."
Well, part of what pisses me off is, especially in the initial days, weeks, and months, how many Republicans, and of course, Fox News is always, it's still legacy media, even though it's only been around since 96. But, well, with a mob, things get out of hand and people were angry. And that is not what happened. It's like every Trump rally you've ever seen, every Tea Party. And mind you, I've been attending Republican rallies and in my, adult life more recently, if you think of the Tea Party stuff, I have never seen anything but kindness, very protective of each other. I've never seen anyone get angry. And we organized an Obamacare protest in front of Representative Lois Capps' office in 2009, in August, I think, when the vote was going down. And they bust in Teamsters and they were throwing elbows at us. They were doing everything they could to get us to hit. And that was like January 6th.
To agitate. Is that what you mean?
Well, actually physically attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then second foul gets called, for those of you who are sports fans and know how that works. But we were literally allowed in, invited in, entered with permission. When there were troublemakers, that all of the people, and I know my people, the Trump people got back. There were these young men in flak jackets, boots. They had military surplus gas masks around their necks, and these black Antifa helmets with Trump taped on the back of the helmet, and their new MAGA shirts. And they were banging on windows and doors. The Trump people I was on the east side, so I was on the more peaceful side. I wasn't where the scaffolding was. But back there were these obvious troublemakers, and the people, many old, some were your age and veterans, but it was pretty much like you see at a Trump rally kind of crowd. And we're all like, we don't know who they are, but they're not with us. We're staying away from them. And so after about 20 minutes of, this is on the east side, these people banging and, windows and doors, these magnetic doors of the Capitol open, and these guys go in where they're kind of like military, where they all put the one hand on the shoulder and they all go in a line through the door. Okay. Then we're milling around a bit, another 20 minutes or so. And then the velvet rope tourists that you saw pictures of, those kind of people start coming out the east side. They had not entered on the east side, but they were coming out, and we were greeting them. And my husband had never been to the Capitol. I've been as a 8th grade chaperone. I've been as a lobbyist against a local casino. I've been as part of a press group for a friend of mine who was a reporter.
So you're familiar with DC?
Yes, and the Capitol. And it's always open on Wednesday afternoon. And there was no stay out sign. There was no leave immediately or you will all be arrested. Like at a keg party in high school, none of that. And they certainly have the ability to do that. But so the bad people were gone, the obvious not Trump people, the people that looked like nice us came walking out. And my husband was so excited, and other people were going in from our side. And I said, honey, do you want to go in? Because he had never seen Statuary Hall or the Rotunda. And so we asked the officers, who had been nice. The Capitol Police at the doors on the east side had been very nice, with a couple of weird exceptions. But the main gaggles at the door were nice and polite and answering our questions. And when we asked, can we go in? Certainly, yes. I can't remember his words. I would like to get that tape of me being permitted after asking if we could go in. We walked in. It wasn't very crowded. And we saw a couple of weird things, one being a young, overweight guy standing on one of the benches in Statuary Hall saying, "This is our effing house. This is our effing house." And all of the me people, the Trump people, were like, "Get down, please. That's disrespectful." We don't stand on furniture. But we didn't fight with him about it. But that seemed weird. And there was gas still that seemed to be coming from outside. We weren't really sure. So those of us that had a water bottle were giving it to people to help people wash their eyes out. But we were mainly talking like, yeah, this has been a weird day kind of thing. Then all of a sudden, more and more people started coming in. And I noticed a lady about my age, old, she was over 60 for sure. And she was screaming in a cop's face. And that's when I noticed that all the doors, it's a round room, and all the doors were filled up with police that I now know to be DC Metro, holding riot shields with the whole riot garb on. And this old lady was yelling at him, saying, "Effing pig." And I walked over to her stupidly and said, "We're not here to protest the police." And he took his billy club and just slammed me across the belly with it. And I thought, oh my God, I've walked into a trap.
Oh my gosh.
And by then the gas was coming in so thick, and I just needed to find my husband. It took me, we were never more than 50 feet apart, but we'd be talking to different people. I find him, we make it to the rotunda. It's like a sardine can packed in there. There's no way out. We asked the black uniform Capitol Police without the riot gear, that were standing on the stairs. Is there any way out? Can we get to the door anywhere besides trying to make it through this crowd? And they just kind of laughed and said, "Nope, sorry." And then this really large young woman, not just fat. I mean, she was like, 6 foot, 220 kind. I can get you out. And she just like starts going. And normally I'm that chick, even though I'm little, I can always make it. But I took advantage of her kindness and offer of help. But on our statement of facts and arrest warrant, it said that we entered the Capitol by breaching a police line. We refused to leave when repeatedly asked. We got to the rotunda and we socialized for 30 minutes before finally exiting the building. Lie. But it was such a clear trap. And I didn't think, as soon as I got back to my motel was when I realized there had been a riot. I knew I had walked into some crazy trap, but my phone started going off. My phone didn't work when I was at the Capitol. I charged it. I'm going to a big event. I got my phone charged. I want to take pictures. Didn't work at all. But when I get close to my hotel, my phone starts going off with all my friends back in Cal. Are you okay? And then I get to the hotel, and everybody that works at the hotel who welcomed us the day or two before was glaring at us. And anyway, went up, turned on the TV, and heard what they were saying. And some Israeli news producer called me and wanted me to go on air and describe it. And, I've never met a microphone I didn't like. And so I was going to do that. But then the producer said, "Okay, well, you're going to talk with whoever." This is all part of my Jewish side of the family that's, in Israel and connected in some way. And she starts asking me questions like, "Are you going to apologize?" I said, "I'm not only not going to apologize, I'm not going to talk to you because I see where this is going." And, this cousin in Israel that's like has the suck over there is a little commie from Santa Barbara. I should have known better than to talk to anybody she was talking to anyway. But it's like the way it all played out. And then hearing everybody from Ted Cruz, Sean Hannity, all these so-called conservatives denouncing behavior of people like me.
Calling you guys domestic terrorists. Ted Cruz went on Fox News and called January 6 protesters domestic terrorists. And what a way to treat your actual constituents. Can I ask you a question?
Constituents and some of the finest, what we found out, because we got a really connected lawyer, and we got to do all of our court stuff on Zoom, although we were supposed to appear for the sentencing. We had one of the hanging judges, Burl Howell. She is known for being as bad as all they are. She's as bad as any of them. And anyway, all the Zoom conference deals we went to, there would be, 5 or 6 or however many squares of people. And they would have their name under like we do here. And so I was Googling each person, triple amputee motivational speaker, UFC champion, and I look at his whatever social media, and he's wearing an American flag with black guy, a congressional candidate in Ohio. They were the people that, like me, were always those people that were starting the tea parties or getting the Trump train going. They targeted the most active, informed constituents.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. So I'm very curious to know how they contacted you. So you were there at the Capitol, right? And then you ended up going home, I'm assuming to California. And then how did they contact you? Because some people had, armed feds kick down their door, basically. So I'm curious how they contacted you and what was the evidence that they used against you? Did they use the geo-tracking on your phone or surveillance footage? And you also mentioned that there was surveillance footage that you were trying to get a hold of.
Well, all of it. You're on camera every second you're in DC, but particularly at the Capitol. But what's interesting, we went home for a day, but I was supposed to go to Texas then because I was helping my friend I mentioned before the show started. Kinky Friedman is a very good friend of mine. And he has a ranch outside of Medina, Texas. And, he was very careful with politics because he was an entertainer. So he would always say, well, he liked Trump and Bernie because both were outside the system. But he was 100% Trump, 100%. And so we went J6 home and then to his ranch for a month to help. This was going to be the first year of the Gold Star camp. And I am quite confident that I would have had my door kicked in because I was president of my local government board in this really cool little town called Santa Ynez. And nobody kicks in Kinky Friedman's door. I mean, he is such a beloved Texas icon. And his sister, who still works for the State Department, was working remotely because of COVID. She was on the ranch. They were 100% backers of me. Kinky wanted me to fight it. He wanted to be my character witness. And that was when I still wanted to fight the charges.
Yeah.
So then we go home from Kinky's, and that's like the first week in February, we're back in Santa Ynez, and our house is fairly fortified. We're the last residential. We live in a little cabin in this ritzy tourist town. So we have a fence, locked gates, and cameras around our house because of all the crime that the fake Indian casino has brought into our town. And so we see two guys with suits walk up, and I was getting ready to go to a class training for work. And I talked through the gate to the friendly suit. The not friendly suit was standing back about 15 feet. And I didn't open the gate. I just talked him through the gate and said, can I help you? And he said, oh, you're not in any trouble. We just wanted to ask you a few questions. I said, well, what about? He said, January 6th. I said, what about it? And then he said something so weird. He said, did you see anyone planting explosives at the RNC or DNC while you were there? And later, reading other people's, when you could go on the site and read other people's arrest warrants, that was a common question that they led in with. And they know I wasn't anywhere near there because of the geo-tracking, because of the cameras, the heavy security. But the way they found me was probably because on X, I'm like, hey, I'm going January 6th. Anybody else want to go? Google, Gmail. Hey, I'm going. You want to go? Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. There were 5 of us that went and RSVP'd to the Stop the Steal rally, reserved hotels, went through TSA. Bank of America gave every ATM transaction to the federal government. They knew, and I did not try and conceal who I was in any way. I was proud to be going. And most comically, on my arrest warrant and statement of facts, when I finally got out of the Capitol, a lady was holding an open mic there and said, what'd you see? Said, well, my name is Karen Jones. I'm from Santa Ynez, California. And I never thought that I would be gassed by police in my Capitol. And I would just like to lead everybody in the Pledge of Allegiance now. And so I led the pledge, and then that was all I had to say. My arrest warrant, statement of facts, plea deal, all of it said that I said, my name is Karen Jones. I'm from Calabasas, in a way to conceal my identity. And by then I was off social media. You know, January 6th, all I did was Twitter, and I stopped that January 6th. And, but my daughter, you know, in her 30s, and her friends saw this video going around of me 2 years later when the sedition hunters identified me, you know, 2 years after the cops had come to my house. And in the sedition hunters stuff, they were circulating a video of me doing the open mic. And it said, my name is Karen Jones. And I'm and it was obviously tampered with tape.
Wow.
In my arrest warrant in a big box. It said, Karen Jones from Calabasas tried to conceal her identity by giving a false hometown. Anyway, it was just, they were using obviously fake. If anybody on the street could see that it was cut. And I can tell you, it wasn't just cut to make me seem like I was concealing my identity, because I give my name, but a town a whole hour and a half away from where I live. The real reason they did it is because they clipped in, I have my own video of it. My husband took a video of me leading the pledge. Well, the video they were using was from one of their people or sources. And they clipped my pledge little speech next to an idiot who was one of those fake people I told you about. And he was wearing a Trump flag as a cape. He had the helmet. He had the costume on. He wasn't a real Trump supporter. It's like, we breached the police lines. We're able to get in the Capitol. We've done it. He was saying all the things that they said we were trying to do. And I had no reason at all to go in the Capitol except to show my husband. I know Tony always likes to joke about that on Kill Tony. Oh, you were a tourist, right? But it really was a tourist thing at that point. The trouble had died down. We went all the way to Washington, D.C. My husband hadn't been there. So, I mean, my biggest regret was walking into the trap.
Yeah.
You know, that's my shame. But I'm very proud. And my children and my grandchildren, and it means a lot to me when it comes to grandchildren, because they're going to be old like me someday, and their grandchildren will be studying this whole Trump era and all the craziness around it. And my grandchildren will be able to say, Granny Snakebite and Grandpa Rob were there. They're part of that 1600 that paid the price.
So
so
you
like, you know, not to get all religious about it, but it's like Simon being ordered to carry Jesus's cross. I don't think Trump is Jesus. I don't think I'm Simon, but it's these stories, these crucifixion
Parallel.
stories. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it. And I'm glad it happened. And Judge Howe said I was without remorse. And that's the only time she said the truth in that courtroom.
So you went into the Capitol pretty late in comparison to when everyone initially went in. It's kind of odd that they would have let you in if it was such an insurrection at that point. Wouldn't they have stopped letting people in? Like it wasn't just a flood. It was like a gradual flood. We're like, oh yeah, keep coming in. Like,
well, now we know that there were people inside in costume and being led around, and the useful idiot shaman guy, you know, that guy.
Who's turning out to look more like a Fed every day. I don't know.
Right. Or he's just a attention whore, or who knows what his deal is. But he is a useful idiot no matter what's behind it. But those people were all in way earlier. And this is from memory. I should have, I'm so lazy. I should have drug out all my statement of facts and plea deal crap. But I believe we entered the building at 3:02 and exited at 3:17. It was like between 3 and 3:30. And one of the things that we had to swear to, under penalty of perjury, mind you, when we signed these plea deals, that we knowingly entered the building, knowing that it was restricted, and knowing that Mike Pence was in the building. Wow. And I'm like, I asked my lawyer, Mike Pence, who cares? And it's like, well, that's how they're getting around the fact it was restricted, was because there was Secret Service protected people in there. Mm-hmm. Well, the last time I had been at the Capitol, I was on a lobbying trip lobbying against the casino expansion in my town. And because I live in a place where I have interesting friends, one of them hooked me up with their relative that was a mega donor. And so I got access to a lot of things that I wanted of just as a regular old housewife citizen. And one of the things, we were eating in the Senate dining room and Trump was coming, and the Secret Service made us leave, but we didn't have to leave the whole dang building. We just, the hallways. So the Mike Pence thing, if it was really restricted because of him, they would have restricted probably the chamber, certain hallways. It was all a big lie. Everything was a lie about it.
So
And you watch the video, it's those same old violent loops of crazy people banging on doors. That is not what the people who were there saw on the east side. On the west side, people were calm, just like we were on the east side, but then they were getting pelted with rubber bullets and gas. And the people that were trying to save lives in the tunnel, when like Roseanne Boylan was killed, many of the people that were in prison for 4 years, their assault on a police officer was holding on to a riot shield and trying to lift it off the soon to be dead body.
So did your husband get charged as well, or the 3 others that you went with?
Well, we got separated and the other 3 wound up on the west side. And my husband was with me and we were charged together. And it's kind of interesting. We shared a court case. I don't know that is true of other married couples. And, you know, my lawyer is as big a lefty as you could ever meet. He helped me in a land use lawsuit that I was involved in when we were buying out the other relatives in this 125-year-old cabin that we live in. So I know this lawyer. When you're getting a lawyer, this is my opinion, you are mainly trying to hire their connections. And my lawyer is married to a judge. His partner recently became a judge. He was the president of the Trial Lawyers Association Union of the United States. He's a very high profile California lawyer. He got the death penalty thrown out. We agree on very little politically. When I was going to fight it, I was looking at libertarian law firms. And my children were very adamant that no, you've got to cut a deal and get this behind you. And when I saw the early results and how change of venue was being denied, all the different things that I was going to use to make my case, notwithstanding the number one that I never hear anyone mention, the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, our commander in chief, Donald Trump, said, now let us all walk peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. And that's what we did. I mean, if I don't know where these other people think they have authority over the commander in chief, but besides all the RSVPing and everything else that happened, it was ridiculous. But once we saw, depending on if you do a jury trial or by judge, it's a 100% conviction rate in jury trial, and it was 99 or 98, depending on if you want to split the counts. Like some people were found not guilty of one of the counts, but guilty of the other. But everybody that fought it by trial or with a judge got a much harsher sentence.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I just want to pop in. Karen, I have a million questions for you. But I just wanted to pop in one question about the plea deal, because that seems to be how they get people. So, you know, they charge you with this and this and this and this, domestic terrorism, insurrection, or whatever, parading around a Capitol. So they stack up all these charges against you, right? And then they come in and intimidate you and say, hey, you can fight it if you want. It's going to cost millions of dollars. You're going to have to find a good lawyer. You're going to have a team. It's going to drag out for however long, and you're battling against the deep state or just the state, the police state that has deep pockets and endless power. And so what they do is they're able to, it reminds me of Dinesh D'Souza. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him and his case.
Oh, so familiar. And
yeah,
exactly. The prosecutors have all the power, whether it's the local DA, because it's unlimited supply of other people's money versus the defendant's money.
That's right.
And so I've been on board for that reform. Mark Garrigus, another lefty lawyer, I didn't talk to him directly, but we have a mutual friend, and he put me in touch with a very successful counterterrorism attorney that got some people out of Gitmo, some accused terrorists.
Yeah.
But that was when I was planning on fighting it. But they gave most of the people, I guess, I guess they could have charged me with hitting a cop with my stomach on his billy club. But this is me rioting. And so every single video you would see of me, and it's comical, I didn't wear a mask during COVID. You know, I knew that was all fake. But in the Capitol, I pulled my black turtleneck. It was very cold. So I had multiple layers of clothing on. I put a turtleneck because of the gas in there. And I covered my head and was just trying to get out of there without getting a head injury. So it would be really hard to make the case that my husband or I did anything violent. We never touched a policeman. We didn't touch other people. But they gave all the people like us, if they weren't going to go for the, attacking the police, who, by the way, if anybody has any pictures of the injured policeman, I'm anxious to see that. I have not seen a single photo of a bloodied cop yet. I have seen a lot of bloody protesters, and that's why I like to say this was Tiananmen Square meets Kent State. Because of the 4 deaths, of course, the Kent State comparison.
Let me ask you a question, and then I'd like to open it up to Adrian and Steve and Silas to see if they have questions as well. But my question is what was the plea deal, if you don't mind talking about it, and also how, because you were stuck in that decision to fight or to plea, right? And so how did you weigh those options, and how did you come to that conclusion to make a plea? I'm assuming.
Well, for 2 years, it was kind of like Chinese water torture, because I knew I was going to be arrested. In the meantime, my son had been living out in Texas, and I've been going back and forth. And he and his wife decided to get a divorce. She wanted a divorce. She didn't like Texas. She didn't like country living much. So anyway, then I just stayed, even though I hadn't been arrested or detained in any way. My son had 3 small children and a home to maintain while he earned a living. And this also happened to be right at the same time Joe Rogan was opening the mothership. And my son had been going to Vulcan because he knew his marriage was in trouble, but he didn't know how. He just knew things weren't right. He was trying to make his wife love him again. He was like trying to work some stuff out. And he thought, hey, I'm by Austin. I'm going to go to the Vulcan. He loves Kill Tony. And so the week I got out, there was a week that he found out that his wife was having an affair. And my son was on Kill Tony and talked about his affair. He found out that his wife was cheating with a girl who had removed her breasts and took mustache pills. I think they call them trans men. I get if that's a trans man or a trans woman. But anyway, so this is a 30-year-old woman that did this, not a 13-year-old girl. And so my son's telling me, I finally found out what's going on in the marriage. Sophie came clean. She's having an affair with Elliot from the bakery. And he said, it's so weird because she said, and having your guns here scares me. And I said, well, I'll take all the guns off the property and lock them in my friend's safe. And when he said that, he said, I don't know why Sophie would ever be afraid of me, because my son, he's a sweetheart. If you saw him on Kill Tony, that's what Tony picked up on. He's a very gentle person. And I said, she is going to say that she had to kill you while you were beating her. While you're asleep, Elliot is going to punch her in the face, shoot you in the head. Then she's going to call the cops crying after Elliot leaves and say, oh, have fun. And you're in Texas and there's nobody there that can vouch for you. I am getting in the car and driving to Texas now. I was really, and that's crazy. That's a woman watching Hallmark Channel. But when somebody says that they're afraid that you're going to shoot them and they're a woman wanting a divorce, And I happen to know my son was worth more dead than alive at that point. You know, we're women, we're crazy. We insert ourselves in the craziest stories. So I just jumped in the car and just drove straight to Dripping Springs. And that was the week that that Kill Tony started. And so my son and I went and I signed up with him. And we had an idea about doing a podcast in the alley called Kill Alley and interview all the characters. It was just a really fun scene. And how I ended up here is just getting back to the plea deal. They still hadn't arrested me, but I knew I was going to get arrested. So I wanted to hide in plain sight. And I wanted the protection of Joe Rogan. I just knew if Joe Rogan knew that I was one of these J6 people, that it would be like being at Kinky's Ranch immediately after.
Smart.
You have to be, it's fighting a naked person. Where do you grab? You know, you got this old lady and she's, you know, got this story she's told at Rogan's Theater. So, but I didn't get up, obviously, the first time. It took me somewhere between 16 and 20 signups to get pulled. Yeah. And I'd never done stand-up before. I had a good minute. I had a good interview. And Tony's like, you know, we love you. Best first-time comic. You're great. And he threw me the big joke book, and I caught it. And I was just panicking, thinking, I didn't get to talk about J6. When will I get this opportunity again? So I'm standing there holding my big joke book. You know, Tony, as soon as he's done with you, it's time to get the F out.
Yeah.
And I said, but Tony, you still don't know the most interesting thing about me. And he took the bait. And I don't know that it would have worked if it would have been a different night or a different guest. But it was just him and Theo. And so they played a little guessing game about what's my interesting story. And I said, my local newspaper has accused me of being a white supremacist. And that's because the local lefty rag is domestic terrorist and lumped me in with all that. And had just done a story a few months earlier. And so that caught their attention. And then I got to talk about being at the Capitol. But my lawyer had already warned me. He said, I know you, and you think you can win in the court of public opinion. But you got to understand, I've been doing this a long time, and no, not even you can do that. You're going to make things worse for yourself. I'm advising you not to talk about this in public, but I understand that there's a good chance you will. You know, he had represented me before, and he knows I'm a bit of a live wire or loose cannon on deck, however you want to look at me. But I knew I was taking a risk talking because everything I said could be used against me, and we still didn't have a deal worked out. I hadn't been arrested yet. My lawyer had been trying to work with the Department of Justice since day one when I first hired him. And he said it was so well. He contacted the FBI to put him in touch with the USDA that was assigned to our case. And it took him a few days to get back to him, which was unusual. And he said, the FBI said that no one has been assigned to your case, that the whole Department of Justice has been assigned to all the cases. And he said that's highly unusual. But my lawyer still didn't think J6 was anything worse than any other federal defendant. He just said, you have to understand that the prosecutors have all the power, blah, blah, blah. I think he came to believe me more toward the end of the case. He was so sure there was no way I was going to get any jail time. He had done a great job. But the deal, you know, once I knew I was getting arrested and went on Kill Tony, and then Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan talked about it on Joe Rogan's show. You know, I knew I was going to be arrested, but Tony and Joe were saying she was arrested for going on your show and saying that. But it's not true. You know, if you listen to the Department of Justice, and had Biden, or Kamala won, they would have arrested our three friends that were on the other side and didn't enter the building. They were going to arrest everybody who was anywhere in their geofence around the Capitol. Who knew that the sidewalk or the square cement area was, a restricted space? It's pretty crazy how little notice that they gave. Because as a lowly community service director on my government board, we had to give notice, if we were, putting new toilets in the bathroom. Anything you do, you have to notify people and give them an opportunity to participate or at the very least comment. And that's specific to California law, but it's also consistent with sunshine laws regarding the federal government. So these guys have been acting in secrecy, not just the deep state, but the politicians themselves. And they all work together. And so the plea deal, here's to me the most interesting thing of the plea deal. It was full of all the lies I outlined earlier, that I concealed my identity, that I knew Mike Pence was in there, that, I knowingly and evilly did these things. They charged me with 4 counts. They charge everybody pretty much with the same 4 counts. And it was disorderly conduct, illegal parading, trespassing, and I'm forgetting one, but they're all along those lines, kind of like malicious mischief kind of charges.
There was one that was parading in.
Yeah, parading cracked me up because I have been in 3 illegal parades. I totally know what an illegal parade is. I led an illegal parade down State Street in Santa Barbara. I did 2 illegal parades on Segundo Street after my son and my daughter's weddings. Whole wedding party just marched down the street. We weren't going to get a permit. So, I have done illegal parading, and I was willing to accept the consequences on all 3 of those occasions. But I did no parading. And the reason I ended up separated from our friends and on the backside of the Capitol is I had to pee. And I had been told.
Nature calls.
Yes, well, I always have to pee. I'm an old lady. And when I'm going from one place to another, before I have to pee, I pee. But I had already made arrangements because on Thanksgiving, one of Matt Gates's assistants had Thanksgiving at our house. And she told me she would let me in the Dirksen building to use the bathroom because I told her I was going January 6th. I said, oh, man, I hope that there's enough toilets there for everybody. Because I'm an old lady. I'm always worried about where I'm going to pee. Didn't want to wear astronaut diapers. Not that I ever have, but
I think
I'm
about that hopefully to comfort you. I think about that all the time. I'm like mapping it out in my head. Okay, I'm gonna have to pee at some point. Okay, is there a Starbucks around or something like that?
Easier for you than me, but now every kind of perversion is legal except for peeing behind a bush. So guys risk getting some kind of sex offense charge peeing outdoors, unless they're vagrants. Then they get free stuff. But it was so interesting because in my initial talks with the lawyer, when he's trying to map out getting me Queen for a Day immunity and different stuff, when I was going to be arrested, but we didn't know when. This is 4 years before, actually 3 years before I was arrested. He's asking me if I have anything, and I did have something that I would never use. I could say Matt Gates' office was going to allow me in the Dirksen building. Mm-hmm. I have text messages saying that they were going to let me in, and the Dirksen building, of course, tunnels to Congress. If I was a snitch, if I was one of the people, and some people did do dirty snitching on Proud Boys, and there are other things. I could have went tattletale on the dead voters. It's so funny. I'm such an old lady. I'm just doing this dead voter society thing, and the messages disappear. I think that was set for 3 days, maybe 1 day at some point. But there are all these really well-known people talking about this stolen election that I knew was going to be very historical. And I didn't even know how to do screenshots on my phone, and I didn't know if it would even work on Signal. So I told my husband, I go, give me your phone. I want to take some pictures of these conversations. Yeah. This is like Smithsonian level stuff. So on this old laptop that we ended up, my husband's phone, he has an Android. I had an iPhone. For some reason, my husband had battery, and he had his phone running almost the whole time we were there. It looks like 5th generation Chinese filmmaker, all this red, tapestry stuff. Someday I'm going to make a beautiful documentary. But anyway, wherever I was going with this, in the plea deal, I had to pick the one that I felt the least like the liar agreeing to. I was not parading. I was not disorderly. Yeah. I was not whatever the other one was. But the only one that I could kind of not feel like a total liar was the entering a restricted area, entering and remaining.
That could
And
be fair. Is that what you mean? That could be a
no,
fair
that I didn't
charge?
want to be a liar. People are
Yeah.
going, lie. They're liars. You're lying to liars. Just say, yeah, I did it all, and agree and get off easy and live to die another day.
Mhm.
But, I felt bad for not fighting it. And still, we went to January 6th reunion on Memorial Day in Fredericksburg. And there were, a lot of people there who had been in prison for 4 years. And
Yeah.
I feel kind of like my husband feels for taking a draft deferment during the Vietnam War. Like I felt a bit like a pussy
Yeah.
for not fighting it. But I felt like I fought it by going on Kill Tony. I know that I got my stricter sentence because I said in front of millions of people, no policeman died that day. And Red Band fact checked me and I was right.
Yeah.
And so every time I went up there, I told more truth. And Tony would always, yeah, they invited you in. Sure, you just can go. And he played the devil's advocate to my story. And
Which
this is
probably
my
helped
opinion.
you tell your story, though. I think the devil's advocate is not always a bad role.
It was
'Cause-
great. I
yeah.
loved it because that story could not be told on YouTube or social media platforms. He couldn't have done clips of it on Instagram because that's disinformation. As long as Tony is, Dad, look at this crazy batty old lady making up these stories. Let's all laugh at her.
That's right.
I was able to get my story out and I laughed along and played along.
Yeah.
And even when he and Joe Rogan were talking, how stupid to talk about it on your show. If they said anything else, like, I don't know, I think she's telling the truth, maybe they'd be demonetized.
Yeah.
Maybe, so all I knew is every time I got up there, even I bombed twice, but one time I didn't intend to even put my name in the bucket. I just wanted to go for it was my support group.
Yeah, camaraderie.
Texas, yes. And I wasn't going to sign up, but I just went through the motions. And sure enough, I got pulled and I hadn't slept for 2 days. I just started my drug testing on Friday. I was going through marijuana detox. I couldn't use anything. And I had been awake for 72 hours. And I had the kids alone. My son had to go to California on a business trip. And my nerves were just shot. And when they called my name, I could barely go. And I was sitting on that stool behind the curtain waiting for them to call me out. And I was afraid my legs were going to collapse. And my minutes, because I always have a few minutes ready, locked and loaded and pick one when I feel the crowd. And I barely got anything out. And I was so stupid. And I just kept hoping a stray bullet would hit me in the head and I could die.
Can I make you feel better about that? Tony always says, how many of you people like it when comedians do good on this show? And people are like, yeah. And then he says, how many people like it when comedians do bad on this show? And everybody's like, yeah. So
everyone
even
but
if you
the
do,
comedian.
yeah.
But I keep going a long way. I want to make one point on that plea deal. So I signed all this bullshit and I didn't feel good about saying they were telling the truth. But my lawyer, the one thing I wouldn't budge on to get the deal through that they had to keep going back and forth on, I would not accept that I claimed I was from Calabasas. And my lawyer said that it was the only plea deal he had ever brokered that had a footnote. And they put a footnote on it that said, different tapes taken at different angles make it unclear if the defendant said Santa Ynez or Calabasas. Now they're just big liars that used a fake film, whatever. But everybody's got a limit. Okay, I'll go to jail for the 4 years if that's what it's going to take. But I'm not going to say that I tried to conceal my identity. Well, that was just a bridge too far for me.
Well, here on the Post Republic, we are big fans of practicality, pragmatism, choosing your battles, and I've had to sign a plea deal myself, a couple of them, and one of them specifically was something I truly did not do, and it was the charge was fighting in public, and I was just in the vicinity, and there was a reason why I had to sign a plea deal. But the way that they threaten you, they'll threaten a lot of these J6 defendants. They threatened them with 35 years in prison, federal prison, and stuff like that. Or
and
you
they
can
put some in for that. I mean, Stuart Rhodes, he definitely got over 30. I'm almost certain. Enrique Tarrio, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He got 22 years. It's scary. It's not just like theoretical, but that helps me understand you and how you get the whole bend over the barrel thing on these plea deals. And there should not be plea deals. There should be jury trials of your peers. And they were rotating juries in Washington, D.C., something nobody had ever heard of. The same people serving on multiple J6 juries. I mean, once you start peeling this onion, just the J6 stuff will blow your mind. But then when it gets to the reason J6 happened, which was really kind of reeks of desperation, they were that afraid of Trump.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And what he went through, okay, he's a bigger, stronger, richer, more powerful person than I am, but relative. They put him through hell, his children through hell, and it was
he tried to kill him.
They tried to kill him literally, and probably more times than we know.
Yeah.
And to have somebody that is willing to just say, so what? And just not bend was very inspirational for a lot of us. And then, some of the people I talked to in Texas, it was so different in Texas. In California, nobody helped me. Like I said, not even a letter to the editor, not even speaking, to the Republican Women's Club, nothing. In Texas, people not only thanked me for my service, but I had an opportunity to go out to Demolition Ranch and talk with Tim Kennedy and Adam Johnson, the lectern guy, Brendan Herrera, who's running again for the congressional district.
He's running again, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He came so close last time. I think he's going to win this time. But I got to talk to all these people. And in Texas, like, I didn't have to convince anyone of what happened. The Black Rifle Coffee guys, I've been on Drinking Bros podcast a couple times. They, people who are well informed and understand, who have been through something like having to sign a plea deal that was pure BS. I think people in the military, like my son-in-law, understand and were a lot quicker to not doubt me when I said it was a trap, it was a cover-up,
Yeah, what was that like, Karen, you experienced January 6th, in your own experience of it, and then you have to deal with this alternate reality almost that's created on the spot by the media and all these political figures about it's the worst thing that's happened since 9/11 or the Civil War, all this absurd exaggerations of it. What was that like to be at the event, and it is a mostly peaceful protest or just an unannounced tour of the Capitol, and then you go home and you're a domestic terrorist? Like, how jarring was that for you?
Well, I wasn't surprised by the media because I haven't had cable news. Fox News, I've never liked most of the people on it. I would watch it more than I would other news, but I've always been more of an alternate news person and liberal news. I subscribe to Mother Jones, to Spy Magazine. I like to know what other people are saying. I like to watch MSNBC and have a laugh. But the thing that hurt me, all the people that I thought knew me better than that would say, well, sometimes when you're in a mob, people get kind of worked up. And that's not what happened. We were all calm, peaceful. And even when I was hit and gassed, and I didn't click on anything because, I didn't watch any J6 stuff. I knew I was under investigation. And sure enough, about the time we were arrested, either shortly before or after, we were notified by Google that our entire search history off all of our electronic devices, desktops, had been submitted to the United States government. And I'm glad I've always been a responsible user of the internet. I don't watch porn. And I knew the J6 stuff, I was curious. Normally, I would have been reading about that had I not been there. But I knew there would be like obsessively looking at her crime. So I didn't even have that. But at one point, after I was arrested and was on pretrial, one of my friends, one of that inner circle of good people that defended me and the social media attacks, she subscribed me to Julie Kelly's Substack. And Julie Kelly did the best investigative reporting on January 6th. And I clicked on a link on one of her articles that said protesters were attacked by police on the east side of the Capitol. They were the ones being attacked. And I just clicked on one of the videos she posted, and about 10 or 20 seconds into watching it, I come into the frame and I'm being shoved by multiple officers, kind of like a pinball machine. And I had forgotten about being shoved because I had just been hit and gassed, and I was looking for my husband, but I was just being shoved. And I just, once again, I'm just protecting myself. And then I saw a young man about the age of you guys, he's probably, I don't know how old you are, but somewhere in the 40, 35 to 45 age group, stand between me and a policeman. And there was no videos, none of those closed circuit TV clips. And he was defending me. I could tell he was like, what are you doing to this old lady who's protecting her head? You don't need to be shoving her. And then, I move out of frame and he moves out of frame, but it still puts a lump in my throat because it was people like him that ended up being in prison for 4 years awaiting trial. And their crime was not liking to see grandmas getting shoved around by police in riot gear.
So you end up becoming an enemy of the state just by voicing your own opinion off of an obviously stolen election, right?
And I just taken my oath to uphold the Constitution. And I mean, whether it's a marriage vow, an oath, because I've just been elected to my local community service board, when I take an oath, and I can be full of shit any other time, but when I say something, on my honor, I take it very seriously. And part of going January 6th, I knew that the election was stolen, and I had a duty as a United States citizen to protect the Constitution. And I wasn't going to try and stop anything from happening, but I wanted people to see a million of us.
Mm-hmm.
I plug in my charger. I wanted people to see, and I wanted the politicians to know that we weren't ballots, we were human beings. And when you count the people, you're going to get a much different number than those ballots.
Yeah.
And certainly that's been proven true, because how did Joe Poopy Pants Biden, who couldn't even win a primary, he was so Obama sock puppet.
Mm-hmm.
How did he get 81 million votes, more votes than anybody in the history of our country?
More votes.
It's ludicrous.
More black votes in Chicago than Obama. I just want to point that out.
Absolutely impossible.
Right.
I know that Trump won. He won 3 elections.
Yeah.
And so I'm friends with a lot of younger people, young men particularly, my daughter's old boyfriends, my son's friends. So we talk politics a lot. And a lot of them were Democrats who turned Bernie bro, who turned pretty independent, which is kind of like a nice trajectory as I watch them go through their 20s and 30s. But in talking about it, it was just so clear to them that the election was stolen.
Yeah.
It's at some point, people who don't have a strong right-wing bias, and one of the main people I talked to is a guy that he does film score for movies you would have heard of. We talk all the time, and he voted for Hillary in 2016. His whole life, his dad is an attorney, his mom's a therapist, California born and bred. And this guy did not vote for Trump in 2020. He just didn't vote at all. And then in 2024, he voted for Trump and felt really good about it. And I think that's true of a lot of people who who take things seriously, that pay attention. You know, he definitely is pro social safety net. We disagree on a lot of things, which is good. I think we started this conversation talking about it's good to have a diversity of ideas and have diverse opinions. That's great.
Yeah.
And so it's been really nice seeing people come to conclusions on their own without a bunch of cheerleading or whatever, you know, feeling good, that virtue signaling. The first African American president, an African American, a black guy told me the other night, a black comic, I was telling him, you know, for the first 10 plus years of my life, Negro was a polite term for a black person. And then, you know, Black Panthers and, you know, Angela Davis stuff started happening. And so black was the correct term. And then it became African American. And he's like, the black guy was like, wait a minute. That was faculty lounge stuff. Black people have always said black. Blacks don't talk, say, oh, I was another African American. And I think that that's really true. Anyway, Barack Obama, Kinky Friedman used to like to say, leave it to America to elect the first black president, a guy with no soul. Like, Barack Obama was not very cool. Maybe he was cool compared to other politicians, but you know, he doesn't even have slave blood. I never voted for a Bush in a primary. I voted for Alan Keyes in both the George W. Bush primaries. I voted for W in the general. You know, it gets down to the lesser of two evils. But I voted for Buchanan both times in the primary against Bush the Elder. I voted for Bush the Elder in the general. But anyway,
Well,
Barack
that's
Obama
interesting.
isn't cool, but he did get that third term with Biden.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of people I think that after 2020 being put through the fire with COVID and then the fiery but mostly peaceful protests and then the election and then just the continued absurd then obviously Ukraine and into Biden where it was just so blatantly obvious that they're lying to you about this particular issue and they're forcing you to accept something that's just completely untrue. I think a lot of people who were in the middle or more independent or maybe, you know, like how the Democrats used to be, at least in their head, turned to Trump because it was like, this is my only option at this point. If I'm going to be politically active, what's going on now is just such an upside down world. And it's almost like we needed 2020. I mean, but at the same time, it's terrible that some people January 6th, you know, had to be in prison for so long and that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't like, I think one of the big things for January 6th for me, and I don't know if you can relate to this, is just the contrast between the fiery but peaceful protests and how the politicians on the left were openly calling for people to bail them out and we got to keep fighting, you know, we got to take it to the streets. And then meanwhile, January 6th happens and it is actually a mostly peaceful protest. And then it's literally the worst thing that's ever happened. And like, what was that also jarring? I mean, did you obviously, you know, the media is biased and, you know, are so many of the politicians on the left are just completely lying out of their mouth about everything. But to experience that firsthand of just the diversion in reality and then also the treatment for people who are on the right compared to like just straight up rioting and burning buildings down and people dying, you know, how did that feel when that was going on?
I have a big sign hanging in my yard at back in California to put everybody, we do events there, and no crybabies, no tattletales. And so, you know, even January 6th, I had so few moments of anything, like even the bitterness that I've expressed towards the so-called conservatives of California. I'm not really that bitter. I really like that how do you like me now thing, and all of it, just making fun of it from the get-go at open mics, just saying, Yeah, people are saying January 6th was like 9/11. And yeah, they were both inside jobs. I get that. But it was really more of a George Floyd situation because of people being killed by police violence. But yeah, there are differences there too, because the two women killed weren't doing fentanyl. You know, like I would just joke off the comparisons. And I'm so fortunate to have it in my DNA and in my upbringing that the life you get is the life you make. And so I've got a fighting heart. And if people, you know, I I did not have my heart in running for a third term, but I also understood that so many people didn't want me to run for office again. And a colleague that I care a lot about that I didn't know him before we served together, but I taught him a lot and he helped me a lot. He said, please, one more term, because otherwise things are really going to go in the wrong direction. So I went ahead and ran, but then I was sentenced and I was not allowed to attend meetings in person. I couldn't fly home and campaign. And I didn't just come in last, I came in dead last. And it always stings to lose elections. That wasn't my first loss. I have, lost twice running for county supervisor, but I always did it on my own dime. I never had the Republican Party backing me. And I thought, for $2,000, I can buy a microphone and these two stiffs, the Democrat and the Republican, admiring themselves in the mirror while they debate each other. I can go in there and throw down some truth bombs. And, I love those forums and I made the forums great. People don't like wasting their vote on somebody that's not backed by one of the two parties. Got to quote Kinky Friedman again. He called the Democrats and the Republicans the Crips and the Bloods. Matter of fact, probably, if you haven't heard of Kinky, probably the thing he was most famous for outside of his writing was he ran for governor of Texas as the first independent candidate. And he ran against Rick Perry in 2006. And he lost rather badly. He only got like 14% of the vote. But what was cool was, I think it was the Austin Statesman or whatever the big paper is, the top of the fold, big picture of Kinky was a cartoon, crying because he lost. Kinky always captured the media. And he told, you learn a lot doing music stuff. And I've done a lot of events with Kinky, and I've also produced some shows on my own. And I've been interviewed for political stuff when I was running for office. And the media always tells the story they want to tell. If you're expecting them to quote you accurately or portray the point you're trying to make accurately, you're a neophyte. That's just how the media works. And it seems like, oh my goodness, this wonderful institution, journalism, has went to hell. It went to hell from the beginning of time. It's just better. Like after World War II, people acted better for a couple decades, but everything eventually goes to crap. It's a life cycle.
Yeah. Well, it seems like conservatives, Republicans, the MAGA people are learning that you kind of have to fight fire with fire. You do need to use the court of public opinion, like you mentioned earlier. You do need to use media to your own advantage. You do need to shape narratives and stuff like that. And I think the Republican Party of yesteryear was kind of we're better than that. We're not going to stoop to their level kind of thing. And it's like, well, at the same time, while you guys are sitting on your hands, the crazy satanic lefties are taking all the power. And so,
well, hold it there. I have to interject something.
Go.
Because I'm a huge fan of Abraham Lincoln, and something I have not disclosed yet. My great grandmother's uncle was Lincoln's chief of staff, John Nicolay. And that was part of my interest in Lincoln and the Civil War stuff. But little do people know, Abraham Lincoln was as Slick Willie. And I love him. He was great. And he ended slavery. But he bought a German newspaper to get the German vote. So Republicans, as I said, they also did the first vote by mail. And rightly so. Absolutely, soldiers should vote. But I'm saying Lincoln was quite a clever politician. And so
Fair.
Republicans got away from that, and maybe we were stuck in that post World War II crew cut. We don't cuss. We don't like people who smoke dope, kind of
Puritanism
from Muskogee, kind of. Although not Okies, I think most of those guys voted Democrat if they voted at all.
the boomer hippies.
Yeah, the boomers, the squares, and being a California boomer, I'm a bit of a mix because we had spoken earlier about the people that go to the frontier are a special kind of people. They're tougher because you've got to survive it if you're doing that Oregon Trail, whatever it is. And, I'm multi-gen California on both sides. So my people were tough. And I believe that we all have it in us, in our DNA. I think DNA matters. I also think your upbringing can beat some more of that into you. But, time to toughen up, Buttercup. Oh, Jonathan Turley, I like reading his legal opinions. And he said, buck up, Buttercup, as a headline recently. And I like that too. But yeah, toughen up and don't play dirty, but play tough and call people out. And also I called that anti-bullying campaign when it first started. And I was trying to tell people, no, this is a way to stop speech. Bullying is a healthy thing that happens. We've all been a bully and we've all been bullied. It prepares you for adulthood, for that crappy boss and that crappy neighbor. So anyway, people need to start saying stuff that we heard as children, we who were raised by the people who defeated Hitler. We were, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And another thing people said a lot was so. When somebody goes, well, that's it, and they have to, so. We didn't go, well, I was just trying to, no explaining, no complaining. Just what's your point? And also, why are you giving me this information now? Instead of saying, they said what? They did what? We need to start emulating those World War II guys that came back, these farm boys, dropped to parts of the world when they'd never left their hometown, and just the gore. And there were no student deferments. Everybody who raised me, some had desk jobs, some were in quiet parts of the South Pacific, but a huge majority of this country was subjected to a kind of horror that we cannot imagine. And it's why when people talk about civil war or wanting to take it there, it's like, no, you don't.
Well, they call it the greatest generation, right?
Yeah, well, a commie called it that Tom Brokaw. I mean, that's it. It's a great title. They were the greatest generation. I wish he would not have coined the phrase because he is part of. He was not part of the greatest generation, nor he's kind of in between that. He's older than a boomer, too young to fight, and too old to be cool.
Just like Joe Biden.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think Biden would have been too young for World War II. He could have possibly Korea, but he kind of fell in between the Korean draft and the Vietnam, if age is right. My father right now would be 94 years old. Yeah, and he was Korea. So Joe Biden was a lot closer to the Vietnam, but pre-heavy drafting. My husband is 73 next month, and he had a student deferment. So if you're younger then Peace with Honor happened in 72. So if you are younger than 70 and you're claiming to be a Vietnam vet, you're full of shit. You get a lot of that from the homeless. I worked at a county mental hospital. A lot of them claim to be Vietnam vets.
That's against the law. That's stolen valor right there.
But it's not against the law. It went through the court thing, and they decided it was free speech. It's rather disappointing. But it is subject to peer review. The military guys can hate you for it, and people can call you out for it, but you have a right to lie.
Well, don't get me started on free speech, because I know a lot of people in the MAGA sphere are very free speech absolutist. I'm not. We can maybe table that, or we can get into it. But I did want to open it up to Silas and Steve and see what you guys think about this, or if you have any questions, or what are we missing?
So I guess my question is, are you familiar with Jay Johnstone?
Yes. The name, I see him on X.
Okay, he was an actor. He's been in a couple different things. He was in Mr. Show. He was on Bob's Burgers. He was Jimmy Pesto. He was in a similar situation. They charged him with assaulting a police officer because they hit him with the riot shield. He didn't. He was about to go to prison right when Trump won the election. Now, do you feel like they spread these prosecutions out to keep it in people's minds for the entire 4 years? And had Harris won, do you think afterwards they would have continued the prosecution to try to bury the Republican Party for the rest of the time?
They would have upped it. They would have arrested me for committing perjury on Tony's show by the things that I said. And the Bob's Burger guy, as soon as you started telling the story, my friend that I talked about that does film scores has a mutual acquaintance of his, and he's been around him, and he asked me what I thought of that also. And yeah, they would have thrown the book at that guy, and everybody they would have arrested. And Merrick Garland even held a press conference the summer before the election, right up, maybe even not summer, maybe even in the fall, saying, we still have thousands more people to arrest. We're not slowing down these prosecutions. No, they were not going to stop. And then they would have, thrown enhancements and different things at people. Because one thing, the anti-terrorism law lawyer I spoke to, and I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she wrote a book. They did a movie about, case she got off. But she said that regular defense attorneys were making the mistake treating these like the crimes that you're used to dealing with, when in fact we were all terrorists. We had been identified as domestic terrorists. I mean, how wonderful was it that Tulsi Gabbard got put on the Quiet Skies list, because that made it so much easier for her to believe what was happening. I mean, I think she was probably already wise to it, but it made me skeptical of Marco Rubio, who had been on the Intel committee, being placed in the cabinet. But I think Trump is playing a real smart hand here. He went in and he listened to a lot of corrupt Republicans last time, and he's still probably getting played here and there. But I think he has a strong game plan going in. But to Steve's question, no, they would not have just continued. They would have done it harder, because
Oh yeah.
you got to break the back. Getting back to the sports analogy stuff, it's not enough to just get a comfortable lead. You need to decimate. You need to make sure that there's not a chance of them coming back and winning on a Hail Mary. You've got to destroy the other team.
Which is what happened. But what I'm saying is, do you think they strategically spaced everything out as opposed to just rounding everybody up close to at once?
So hell yeah. That was a more important part of your question. Why is the FBI coming immediately and then just like having this rock hanging over my head? And then finally, when it will be a year till the election, arrest me, play out the negotiations for a year, and then my sentence starts in September, right as the amateurs really start putting up the Trump signs and doing the Trump trains. They had to take out all the people like me and the other 1,500 and some people. We were the people that organized the events, that led our local community agendas. It was very important. And so they did stagger it. They did some hard hitting up front to let everybody know they meant business. Like Enrique Tarrio, please correct me if I'm mispronouncing his name. I've only read it. I've never spoken to him. Okay, that guy wasn't there. He got out of town before it happened. He was not involved in any conspiracy. And, once again, you compare that to the BLM stuff, but they hit him hard and pretty early. Other people, Stuart Rhodes got hit real early. And a lot of the people, the J6 choir guys and those people that were in that horrible gulag, as they call it, they rounded up enough people to make sure the rest of us took plea deals. and they staggered the arrests and they timed the negotiations. And my Judge Burl the Pearl Howell said, I do not, that the prosecution asked for actual jail time. And she said if she gave me jail time, she would be limited to, by the sentencing guidelines, to only give me 1 year of supervised probation. And she wanted to keep me out of participating in as many election cycles as she could. She said, I do not want to give her community service because she will continue telling her lies. And so they put me in house arrest. And, Tony joked about, well, house arrest on 5 acres. No, I couldn't leave my granny flat. And to this day, I pause at the threshold of any door I'm crossing, particularly the back door, which is the door that I violated my threshold a couple of times on house arrest. Once on accident, cleaning my cat litter box, because, I had to keep my cat in the house. And I accidentally stepped over to put the bag in. And anytime you violate it, it sets off an alarm. You got to go take a drug test. They treat you as though you, were Bonnie of Bonnie and Clyde or something. And the other time I violated it was a dog was attacking a worker who came to repair a dryer. The partner went outside. I'd warned them about the dog, but they were monolingual. And she stepped outside before I had time to stop her, and Cujo jumped on her and bit her. And I jumped out with a broom and started beating the dog.
Well, that's what happens when you call your dog Cujo.
I just called the dog
okay.
Cujo. Like, it just, what can I say? It was a dog that had been through a very traumatic divorce. It's a lesbian owner had run off with the trans baker. The dog was very confused and had been acting out. And let's face it, a lot of dogs are racist.
Yep.
They're not trained that way, but if they're, they're very smell sensitive, and it's like, you don't smell like my people.
Mm-hmm.
Protection mode. This was one of those great big, big shepherd dogs that, anyway. But that caused me, I had to drive into the city of Austin, pay anywhere from, $25 to one time the parking went up to 50, and I just chanced street parking far away. But the process is the punishment. You hear that cliche a lot.
Yeah.
Everything they do. Oh, the worst part, the drug testing, nothing to do with drugs. And yes, I've smoked marijuana almost my entire life, and I answered the question honestly, but I've never been in drug treatment. And, it had nothing to do with any of my parading and
it's another way
trespassing.
It's another way for them to get you, right? So, we put her on the drug testing or whatever, and she violated her parole or her agreement or whatever, and so now they can go after you for a whole nother reason.
Right. And in my case, what was funny, I had smoked marijuana. I was arrested on a Wednesday. I had smoked marijuana on Monday. I don't think I had Tuesday, but a lot of times, not before a set, but just to, let the young comedians know I'm not a narc. I'll take a hit, but I like to be completely unstoned when I'm a podcast, comedy set, whatever I'm doing. I like to really be in the moment and have the anxiety. But somehow, the pretrial thing, I get arraigned, and then they take me to the pretrial probation guy. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get the lady officer to get the drug test. And I'm like, drug test? So, well, you said that you have used marijuana. And I'm like, ooh, nobody had seen my naked vagina, not even my husband, in at least, 15, 20 years. To have an old woman, and they were so...
So they wanted to watch you. They needed to watch you to pee, so that way you didn't cheat the drug test. Is that what you're saying?
They had to see the pee come out of the urethra, and they would not even allow me to run water because I had a shy bladder anyway. But particularly at this point in my life, and I said, and I couldn't pee, and I'm like, I'm not trying to evade the test. I want to pee for you, but this is a very awkward situation. Can you run some water? That might help me. No, we need to hear the urine hitting the cup. So they're just these
Jesus.
big, mean. They could work as TSA agents if you get my drift. There's a type that
Yeah.
does that job, and so I never had a dirty test. I was on pretrial for almost a year. Then I was on 90 days of house arrest, and then so that takes me to December. Trump is inaugurated on the 20th. The next day, I get a letter from my probation officer saying, have a nice life. You're off my caseload. But until that time, I was still taking drug tests, and they were random, but every day had to start off with me calling this phone number to see if I was randomly selected.
Yeah.
And one time it was a Friday, and then I had it on a Monday. And that was the when I really fell apart on the Kill Tony thing. I just couldn't, I couldn't keep it together. I pulled it out in the interview, and it ended up being fine. And my son, when he got home and I told him what had happened and how I had bombed, he's like, oh, damn. And I said, no, I didn't get a first down, but I moved the ball forward. Every time I go up, that's another chance to tell my story. So,
You're
I'm
not
gonna
you're
regret
not
it.
talking about the first time you went on Kill Tony.
No,
You're talking
first
about
time was golden. It would be so much better to do shitty the first time and then, get better and better. But in my case, I boom, hit it out of the park. And then
that does happen though. That happens
It
a lot on
does.
Kill Tony, where people pop in their first appearance on Kill Tony, they do pretty good, and then they get a big joke book, and then they come back. Maybe it just they get psyched out, or the nerves get to them, or something, and they don't do well, or they bomb a few times. But one of the best things about Kill Tony, and I could sit here and talk about Kill Tony all day, but one of
Me
the best
too.
things is seeing people get better. There's watching people bomb is actually really fun, and every comedian has to do it. I've bombed as a musician. I'm a musician. I had one of the worst shows ever where I had almost the whole crowd laughing at me. I almost quit music forever. It was so bad. It was the worst bomb ever.
Okay,
It
like
was horrible.
Robbie Robertson writing Stage Fright. Like there's one of those shows where people are throwing their beer cans.
Yeah, yeah. And throwing tomatoes. I mean, they pretty much all did everything except for throw tomatoes. But so what I was going to say though is that you have to bomb to get better, right? You have to do bad in order to know how you can improve. So I guess I say that as encouragement that if you bombed on Kill Tony, I know this stuff probably, but
Well, I really do, and it's the only way I learn things. And I've got a regular open mic I go to on Tuesdays, and I am not afraid of bombing. I'm not saying I've tried a bomb, but one thing I don't like about comedy that I've had to get good with is you have to polish a routine, and I don't like telling the same jokes over and over. So I work in the old jokes to the new material, but I also like to try and challenge convention. So I've been trying to bring back rape jokes, partly because this horrible woman at UCSB when I was campaigning out there in Santa Barbara University of California, she's like, rape jokes are never funny. And I'm just like, you didn't hear the one about, get off me, Pa, you're crushing my smokes. Of course there are funny rape jokes. And she just glared at me. So, my last J6 routine I did on Kill Tony was about getting raped in jail. Date raped.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, I made a joke, and then it's house arrest. But that was really a true story because I couldn't leave this little granny flat. But then I found out I could leave for medical procedures. And I don't believe in preventative health procedures.
Me neither.
But, I had one mammogram in my mid-30s, and I just left there going, I think they just gave me breast cancer. They squeeze your boobs and shoot them with gamma rays. Actually, not gamma rays, but I call it that.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a better way to find out if you got cancer in your boobs than squishing them and radiating them.
Well, and when they biopsy cancer, they pretty much open it up and then it spreads everywhere. And pretty much once you get a biopsy,
yes, you're creating capillaries to form, to heal, that actually feed the
Yeah.
tumor, because we are full of cancer cells, and until they have a food source, they're not going to grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with
That's
you.
right. Let's go.
So that's how I feel about preventative healthcare in general. But I'm willing to give up my life and risk dying if it will get me out of the house. And thank God my doctor was in Kerrville for all the time I had spent out there ranch sitting for Kinky and working at his ranch. So I got to drive an hour and a half to my doctor. He actually was very generous and gave me 2 hours to get there. And I got to drive through hill country, and it just felt really good. And so I didn't schedule them together. On one occasion, I got a mammogram. On another one, I got a pap smear. On another one, I got the butt scope, a colonoscopy. So that's why I'm saying it really was as unpleasant as any other time I had been raped. Date rape. Had sex and regretted it.
So are you off house arrest and all that stuff?
Yeah, I got off house arrest exactly 90 days, and I had to drive, and I was allowed to cross my threshold, drive to the federal building in downtown Austin, and get my bracelet cut off. And I went straight, it was a Monday, I went straight from there to Kill Tony. It felt so good. I didn't get pulled, but everybody, I hadn't been there for 90 days, and I had perfect attendance from week 1, and now we're like 2 years into this thing, and I'm, I had to take 90 days off, and I was going to have to miss this upcoming Monday because last Monday, before the arena show, the last filming we did at the Mothership, I sign up to be on the Comedy Mothership open mic every week also, and I've never been called 2.5 years, and that's not so random. They pick people that they know. The guys that work at the Mothership are all comedians. And these people all go to open mics around 6th Street. And I think a lot of them considered me to be like a J6 novelty. Nobody wanted me to suck their, why give that crazy old J6 lady a spot because they only do 16. Well, I had been invited to do a show at the Creek in the Cave the night before, and I did really well.
Nice.
For a thing called the Hamburger Club. And I think somebody said something because it's a small world, and the comedians around there. So I got a shot, and I got to go up on in the little room for paying people that go pay to see the open mic at the Mothership, separate from Kill Tony.
Yeah.
And I did really well. I thought I killed it. And I went up, I was number 7, and the first few people weren't terribly strong. But 5 and 6 were both young, funny black dudes.
Oh, the worst.
No,
they
the
just
best.
kill. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I love black guys. This is so wonderful. And then I got to go into my P. Diddy material, which is a very fresh take that nobody had heard before. So I do my 3 to 4 minutes that they give you. And then I have to walk back to where the comedians are, the crowd until they go up to grab my phone and my notebook. And Adam Egget was sitting in the back against the wall. And he said, that was a really good set.
Whoa,
I said, thank you.
You got that's a really good set from Adam Egget?
Yes. And he
awesome.
He is not a gushing person, let me tell you. But then he asked me, do you live in Austin? And I said, I can. And he said, well, do you live near here? And I told him Canyon Lake. He hadn't heard of it. I said, I'm an hour and change out of here. I can make it to Austin. He said, come back in 2 weeks at 7:15. So I got an audition with Adam, skipping the line. I don't have to sign up this Monday. But here's the thing. I'm flying to Santa Barbara tomorrow. I'm like doing this Republican women's blah, blah, blah. And of course, I get all my tickets on Priceline because I haven't been this poor since I lived in the Salvation Army. I've got my credit cards maxed out, but you can't miss an opportunity. An opportunity is an obligation. So I just, I was telling my oldest son about it, and all of a sudden Apple paid, bing, $3,000. I would have used my secret credit card that has a 0 balance if I had to. But that was really nice.
I was about to start pulling some strings here, Karen. Okay, so
I wasn't gonna miss it.
So
now
you're
I'm flying
okay.
to Santa Barbara tomorrow. I fly from Santa Barbara to Austin, and I got a hotel downtown for a night.
Good.
Priceline once again, you know, the old cheapo. I've always been good at being poor, even when I wasn't poor. I've always been a saver, so that's been good. I qualified for a what do you call public attorney, the poor people thing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, no
Public
way. I don't
defendant.
want your stinking attorney. But my husband, we were able to save, he was an automation specialist for a major oil company. So we had decent retirement savings that we were able to pilfer through to stay out of prison all those years. But anyway, so I'm going for that Monday. And what's great about it is
This
that means
Monday.
I also get to kill up for this Monday, like in a few days.
Yeah.
I'm not missing Kill Tony. It really bummed me. I liked saying the only time I missed was when I was in jail.
Mhm.
And now I can still have that. Like I looked for the wins. This the thing I did at Creek in the Cave was a comedy Jeopardy tournament. And I came in last place.
Oh.
But I didn't really, because I won in the women's division. I was the only girl that was selected to play.
And there's
my
what?
minute was strong. They let you close the set with the minute, and I did my Diddy minute, and I have a pretty different take on Diddy than most people. So anyway, it did well. It did well with everyone, but the young black guys. That comedians are a tough crowd anyway. But when I started winning over the BLM guys, it made me feel like the world is my audience.
Yeah. Well, so you said this Monday you have your audition. Is that what they would call it? Nice.
Yes, and everybody wants that. And when I was telling people, then I go back upstairs to wait with the other Kill Tony, the 300 plus people trying to get pulled out of the bucket on Kill Tony. I told him, Adam told me to come back in 2 weeks at 7:15. And a variety of people I told that to said, I talked to so-and-so that was at that mic, and he said EGOT wasn't there, that nobody got called back. It's like, dumbasses. He was back against the wall being quiet, and,
Yeah.
Sorry you didn't make it, sucker.
So, well, I did want to reiterate something that going into comedy, the topic of comedy, Tony always says to people who do bad, he almost always says, no, like you need to talk about yourself. You need to talk about your own experience. And like, I think you have so much experience and an interesting perspective that the comedy world and the younger people aren't hearing. And so I applaud you and want to encourage you and help in any way, because I think you're absolutely crushing it. I think you did great on Kill Tony. I'm so glad, and I'm happy to see whatever you come up with. You've been working with Joke World as well, and I'm excited to see whatever you're working on with them next. You said you went to New York.
Yes, and Jake was saying some of the same things that you just said. Like, you have such a deep well. I was telling him something, I can't remember. Oh, I was telling him about being not only the only woman in my drunk driving class, I was pregnant. So I was the only woman in my drunk driving class pregnant. And he's like, is that in any of your bits? I'm like, well, no, but it can be.
Put it in. Yeah.
I've had so many crazy things happen in my life, but I talked to all these young guys, not just at Kill Tony, but primarily. And do you remember Dr. Ruth? She was the sex therapist, maybe 20 years ago. She's an old lady that only she was a doctor, and she would like tell people all this about, and I'm not like that, but I advise people, young men, about sex. Young women, not so much, because they're very, a lot of young women are militantly opposed to my way of thinking. I tell them, and some, want to learn, but for the most part, the guys are open to it, because guys have really been getting the shaft with this pretend world,
literally,
and this, artificial culture, and like a lot of the things that are pathogenic sexually that are celebrated now. I don't care if people do it. Like, I had way more gay friends before I was forced to approve of gay sexual behavior. Yeah. Like, I just like people who I like. My grandkids are like, Grandma, you don't like trannies. You talk crap about trannies. How come you're always hanging out with Juanita in these pictures? I said, it's like Jews. I don't like Jews, but I like you. I don't like heroin addicts, but I like that guy. You know, there are all kinds of, in a group, I don't like them, but I have individuals from all walks of life for sure.
Yeah.
And with young men, I try and encourage them to have babies, to look for women that don't have nose rings or green hair, and they may have to go, stuff envelopes at a Republican place, or better yet, go to church.
Yeah.
That go to a small town, try and meet people with more traditional values, and have babies.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do is make a family.
Yeah, we need to outbreed the Muslims too. So get to work,
Good luck.
guys. Yeah. Good luck.
Do you remember being in grade school studying religions of the world, like maybe fourth grade, and Hindu and Islam, and when they're breaking down the numbers, and the Christians make up 5 million people on the planet. It wasn't 5 million, but it's like a really low number. And then it's like Muslims, 3 billion. And I was just thinking, man, we are fucked.
Yeah.
Like even as a little kid, and not that religion or skin color or whatever, but that's the neat thing about Western civilization. And I love history so much, but you can see how people, be it the Viking raids or coming to the New World, how as long as we can assimilate with the basic principles of Western civilization, because I am pretty close. I probably am a free speech absolutist, but I defend your right not to be one. Yeah, that's free speech. People shouldn't have to vote. People have the right to vote. People have the right to think that some speech should be limited. That's another thing I'm trying to bring back, is I'm trying to make it where any word can be said. And that's really a tricky one. But I've got a routine that I've really been working on, the forbidden racial slur and how to do it. And I tried it in a small group of comedians, and everybody laughed but one when I told this joke. And the one guy said, "You cannot say that word." And I said, "Well, I just said the word." He said, No, I mean, you cannot use it. You have to use something else. I said, "Well, the joke doesn't work if I use something else." He said, well, use Chinese. I said, okay, so a different racial slur. Okay, well, I'll try it, but I don't think it'll be as funny. I'd never say chink in front of a BLACK. And it wasn't as funny, but it kind of, so then that got us going in different directions where we could use that setup, where I would never say, pig in front of a FATTY or whatever, however you want to play around with it.
Right.
But I am, because I like the word, and I don't know, what gets bleeped on your podcast, so I'll just call it, the 4-letter word that was a very rude term to call a girl, not the 5-letter one, but the 4-letter one. I hate saying the C word. I'm not in kindergarten. I don't do pee pee poo poo anymore. But a slur against women, men can say that, women can say that, anybody can say that. It's like, what happens, and what I tell my grandkids when, because kids like to say dirty words, especially being around a foul-mouthed grandma like me, sometimes they'll repeat a dirty word. I'll say, here's the deal. You will not get invited to a lot of birthday parties you want to go to, because you'll get the reputation in your class as being the girl that says words that you don't want, other kids to say. So, I try and teach them the consequences, and also how you can make a much stronger point. And even though a lot of my comedy has double entendres and sexual content in it, I pretty much avoid using vulgar language, because I think it's, and that's not true in comedy. There's a lot of F and this and up or that, and and I don't find that particularly funny.
It doesn't take skill, right? To be it's the same thing with like music too. There's certain like tricks you can use to maybe shortcut, but to be a clean comic, or to avoid using those words, like that actually takes more skill.
Much. I like the music comparison, because I'm sure you are a much more skilled musician than I am, because of my lack of practice. I thought people were good or bad. I didn't realize how much practice
Practiced
and
or
work went into it.
unpracticed.
And I learned that eventually. But the one time I took guitar lessons, I went in there and I said, he started doing this circle of fists and all this. I go, I'm here for licks and tricks. Teach me some licks and tricks. And
That's
I can
right.
do a pretty cool G run and do a few things that I can throw into my very mediocre playing that makes me seem a little more skilled. That I do not consider myself in the same class as real musicians. But not bad for an old lady.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to open it up. We're closing in
No, I
on
haven't
it.
heard from Silas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Hi.
just gonna go to my guy.
I've got a good question. Through your experience with J6 and maybe even through life, what is one of the biggest lessons or advice that you would really want to give to people?
My main advice goes back to this. I said, don't be a crybaby and don't be a tattletale, and embrace your failures. You know, talking earlier about mistakes or how you learn. Every great thing in my life, if it's a story, if my life is a movie, all of the best parts start with my back against the wall. I'm losing everything. I'm being humiliated. And that's how I met your father. Whatever it is, everything that's happened, you know, being an unwed mother before it was cool. You know, we didn't even have MTV then. You know, you weren't allowed to go to school. It was a shameful thing to be pregnant at 15. And, but you just do the work, you get the education, you do what you need to do. And for me, that was being a person that could be employed at a good job. You know, I got my GED, then I went to vocational school and got a psych tech license. And by the time I came back to town, I wasn't that pregnant punch board, you know, rode out of town. I drove up in a new, but, you know, modest car, working for a county, you know, at the county hospital with a pretty decent apartment. And I was 18 years old and my friends were just starting junior college or whatever. So I had a few rough years, but there's a lot of fun in them, you know, like even when the bad things are happening, there are jokes. And that's a very fortunate thing. Always try and find the humor. And if you're not a very humorous person, always look for the victory in the defeat. Like I lost at Jeopardy a couple of weeks ago, but I won in the women's division. I can always find that. Or, you know, I bombed, but I did pick up 3 yards. You know, I always find a victory in it. And it's looking for silver linings, perhaps. But it's really not that hard to do because I hear people say that they're searching for happiness, and I have always searched for meaning. Because, you know, sometimes I find happiness and sometimes I don't, but I can always find meaning. Like there's something to take from every situation, even if it is humility, and that I need to humble myself and I need to, you know, whatever it is, the changes I need to make. And, you know, without disclosing identities, I've had people close to me go through some bad experiences. Like this is something I joke a lot about because so many women have been date raped. But with date rape, this is one of my newer bits. I hope you don't have a huge audience because I haven't done this on stage yet. But date rape is new. When I was growing up, we had dating and we had raping, and only rapists raped. But then we invented date raping, and all of a sudden rape was happening everywhere, and it wasn't just the rapists anymore. So when I've had somebody I care about that has been upset because I've been taken advantage of by a predatory male, that guy's a creep. I don't believe that my sons or my husband would ever even want to have sex with somebody that was unconscious or unwilling to give consent or whatever it is. But we can't change what the guy did. Why'd you go to a guy's apartment drinking alone? Doesn't mean he's a good guy. It means you set yourself up for a certain thing to happen. And that's a big problem with the whole mentality of the liberated woman. I think Camille Paglia would probably agree with me. She's a feminist. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but she thinks that there's been a lot of damage done by the so-called, women's liberation movement and feminism. And that's part of it. And I don't know if that's really answering your question, but my advice is to don't try and figure out what the other person did wrong. Always look inward. Even if the last time I was in New York for a Kill Tony show, I was walking to my hotel, pulling my luggage, and from out of nowhere, a homeless, shirtless, brawny guy just shoved me really hard to try and shove me into the traffic. And I managed not to go down and, pull myself together, and he was off. And some nice people stopped to make sure I was okay. But I didn't immediately think I've got to get the police to arrest him, or we need to open up mental hospitals. I was like, damn, I'm in New York. I need to pay attention. That guy came from out of nowhere. I wasn't paying attention. And it wasn't to beat myself up, but that's the meaning I can find. I'm not going to be happy with that situation, but I'm going to be a little bit smarter.
Head on a swivel.
Right.
In New York, ladies and gentlemen.
and maybe most everywhere. And that's why I'm a country girl. I'm living on a third of an acre. I just got my granny flat moved on a special crazy trailer. It was so hard to get it off my son's property. It was so easy to get it in, but it got here yesterday. And so now I have my house, and I'm just surrounded by trees and deer and foxes. And there are 4 houses on this one block. My street only has 1 block. And I'm the only full-time resident on the guy across the street. We don't talk. He called me once to spot him when he was on the roof. But, it's just really nice to have this amount of privacy and go back to not locking my car or my doors and sleeping with the window open. Like, I like that stuff.
Amazing. I'm so glad that you said yes to be on the podcast, Karen. I think a star is born, and you should talk on the internet. I could sit here and ask you a million questions, so I'm hoping to have you back.
Oh, I could have danced all night. I was actually sitting around a fire pit, and because Steve said that he's good at like giving the hook or cutting it off, I don't need to tell you I'm a talker for sure. But when I was with Jake from Joke World in New York, he told me I should do a podcast. I'm like, well, I'm just so bad with the tech stuff. And he said, I'll help you. And I said, okay, I'll bring my laptop, and you just, put a little red piece of tape on where I need to push to go. And, I'll never run out of free advice. I'll always do a show. Like, somebody asked me how much I got paid. I'm like, you don't realize I carry a guitar in my car hoping somebody will ask me to play for free. Like, I just want to entertain. I love people. So this is, however fun it's been for you, I have dominated. I guess I'm always a chatterbox, but maybe I was particularly horny for social intercourse this evening.
No, it's been perfect. That's what we need. We need talkers, and I like opinions. I'm an opinion connoisseur, and I love it when people are unashamed and unafraid to voice their opinions and stuff like that. So I truly enjoyed. It looks like, do you guys want to do Cuck of the Week segment?
Yeah.
I like this. You have Cuck of the Week. See, I haven't seen your podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. I have one. I think I have one backloaded. So if you guys want to, whoever wants to go first.
Well, let me get the ticker going. There we go. Yeah, I'll go first. Let's see. I've got like 3, so I have to decide which one to use.
He had
Well,
backups.
can you use 2 and give one and say that it's for me? Because
Okay.
I'm just like, for once, I'm speechless. I can't think of a Cuck of the Week right now. I just, Will Smith. It's like, that's so old. I don't have a cuck.
Right, yeah.
Not even the male Minnesota Vikings cheerleader.
Oh,
I wouldn't
that
call
was
him
gonna
a
be.
cuck. I would call him a queer.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I actually
no.
pivoted last second. You're
Oh,
okay.
thank God,
That,
man. I didn't want to blow up
that
your
was my
spot.
backup there. So
That's hilarious. Okay, so this first one will be Karen's.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a pretty good one.
That mustache, you look so gay.
You like the mustache?
Yeah.
I look so gay. What's wrong with being gay? You have a gay pride shirt on.
Nothing.
Are you using that as an insult?
You're a proud boy, aren't you?
Wait, you just told me I look so gay. Is that an insult?
No, it's not an
So then why did you feel compelled to tell me that?
Well, you have beautiful skin.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So this woman wearing a gay pride shirt just came up to tell me I look so gay.
Stick out of your mouth. Take Trump's dick out of your mouth.
Ready to
Take
get out of the
Trump's
street,
dick out of
ready
your
to
mouth.
get
Take
hit.
Trump's
Get
dick
out of
out of
the
your mouth. Take Trump's dick out of your mouth.
MAGA, fuck off.
Oh my God.
Fuck off, MAGA. Fuck off.
What is this? What is this?
I've
You're walking around the microphone?
Fascist.
we'll talk to you. Would you like to speak to us?
Fascist. Fuck off,
Out of your mouth.
fascist.
Take Trump's dick out of your mouth. You
Fuck off,
got a nasty
fascist.
sunburn. Take Trump's dick out of your mouth. Take Trump's
He
dick
doesn't
out
know what else to say.
Fuck off,
of your mouth. Take
fascist.
Trump's dick out of your mouth. Take 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 Trump's
Fascist.
Take Trump's dick out of your mouth. 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 Take Trump's dick out of your mouth.
Yo, leave my cameraman alone, dude. Leave my cameraman alone. Leave my cameraman alone. No, just this is a cameraman. Don't come up and physically harass him and intimidate him.
Are you guys together? Is he with
I
you?
just said, leave my cameraman alone. What didn't you understand about that?
Dick out of your mouth. Take
to
Trump's
him.
dick.
Your husband or whatever this guy is coming up and physically intimidating my cameraman. You gotta leave the cameraman alone.
Fuck off and
What's
get out
wrong
of
with
here.
you, man? That's my question to you. What's wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me.
Nothing's wrong with you? You think this is normal behavior?
Take Trump's dick out of your mouth.
You think this is normal behavior?
Take Trump's dick out of your mouth.
Even here.
Amplifying it a little bit.
And these guys have been. I'm more than happy to be nice. These guys have been following me for 20 minutes. You think this is nice? He's covering.
20
We don't have to
minutes.
swear, but
I completely agree with you, ma'am, and I'd love to speak with you.
Camera. He's hitting me with his camera. Why is that?
You have followed me for 20 minutes, and we've documented the whole thing.
standing still. He
Okay,
just hit
then you
me.
stay right here.
He just hit me
You
with
stay
the
here,
camera.
cameraman. Follow
You
me.
just hit me with your camera, man.
Why are you hitting
You
him
just
with
hit
the
me with your camera. Why is he hitting me with your camera?
Why did he hit you with the
They
camera?
just keep
What's going
repeating.
on? Why are you guys? What's going
hitting
on?
people with your
Why are you
camera?
here?
Why are you hitting people with your camera?
Why you guys are getting out of here? Why don't you get out of here? You're not welcome. You're not welcome. You're not welcome. You're not welcome. Go home,
going.
Nazis. Go home, Nazis. Go home, Nazis. Go home, Nazis.
Stop touching my cameraman.
These guys are hitting people! Go home! You're not welcome!
Go home, Nazis.
You're not welcome!
Go home, Nazis.
You're not
Go
welcome!
Well, I can tell you what's
Nazis.
wrong with these people.
Go home, Nazis.
Shaking.
Go
Why is your hand
home,
shaking?
Their
Nazis.
Why is your
NBC
hand
programming
Go
is very
home,
Why is your hand
Nazis.
shaking? Why is your hand
Go
shaking?
home,
Why is your hand
Nazis.
shaking? Why is your hand shaking? Why is your hand shaking?
This is demons right there.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Bing,
goodness.
bing, bing, bing.
No, those are people with graduate degrees.
Yeah. They've been programmed
demons.
so long.
I mean, that you would have to be at least master's level, if not doctorate, to be that ridiculous.
That's stupid.
Yeah, you've never had to have a job. See, that's what I mean. People need to have families. Anybody
Mhm.
working, feeding their family, coaching the little league team, whatever. Those are the people you see at Trump rallies, and they're on a Saturday outside of working out. That
Exactly.
was those people are so insane, and they have such a lack of self-awareness. I
Mhm.
would rather be a cuck. I would. I'd rather be a guy in a corner watching my wife get hosed.
Well, these are
The-
spiritual cucks. They're
I get it now.
they're trapped in the cuck dimension.
That's
Mhm.
why I was having so much trouble. I
Cuck
was
realm.
thinking more like Diddy style.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but cuck, it just means what we used to call.
Yeah.
We'll call it a wussy, whatever.
Or
Just
somebody
loser.
somebody who's a cuck for the deep state, somebody who's a cuck for the government. You know,
That
like
makes, okay.
that's
that
what
makes more sense.
that's kind of what I think of as a cuck, is like somebody who is just basically bending over backwards for the government. I don't know.
Yeah, horrible virtue signaling, or just cringe-worthy moments like that.
But Will Smith works though too.
Yes, I mean he's probably on the trophy, is the Will Smith trophy.
Mhm.
But I mean, where is the Bill Buckley debate? Kind of, just that was low, man.
Well, Silas, you want to throw us another cuck? Your cuck?
Sure, just a second.
Yeah, we can do this all night, really. That constant repetition, but also the kind of a weird hatred or a derogatory talking derogatorily about like gay activity, though, because those are the people that are like obsessed with gay stuff.
Okay, Dems are going to start saying retarded and gay with this Newsom trend where he's trying to be Trump. I mean, Newsom might say "fuck." Yeah, I won't say it, but not because because we're
No, it's also funny. That's what I meant. It used to be cool to be gay because you were an original.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh shit!
Here's mine.
Okay, here comes. Now this definitely, I see where this is going.
I'm a big kid, look what I can do. I can wear big kid pants too.
Pull-ups, disposable training pants from Huggies.
And I can pull them off and on.
When your child is ready, there's nothing like pull-ups.
Mommy, wow! I'm a big kid now.
I see what you did, Silas. You saved the best for you, and as you should. As you should. That was really good.
Do we even need to show the other ones?
No, if you're old enough to put on your own diapers, you're old enough to be using the toilet. All my kids were potty trained by 18 months.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the infantilization. Am I saying that wrong?
Infantilization?
Yes, keeping people childish in order to make yourself feel younger. I don't know what's behind it, but I don't like, the quicker you're done being a baby, the more I'm going to like you.
Absolutely.
Steve, you want to go or you want me to go? I don't care.
I got one as well. I found one.
I guess I'll go.
Go for it.
Let me pull this up. This is from the town in which I reside in.
Together, out west.
Together, let's take the gay games to new heights. Denver is ready.
Let's show the world that Colorado is a place where we champion rights for all while creating a championship atmosphere for every athlete.
Because we've got diversity out west.
Let's make sure that every kind of athlete and every kind of person participates out west.
Feels included out west. Let's go for the gold out west.
Be loud and proud out west.
Love who you want out west.
Come out as you are out west.
Together, out west.
Wow. Oh, I'm barely holding down.
No, that was really terrible, Steve.
That was Adrian.
I'm sorry. I'm not looking at my
See, this is why I don't win. Silas comes in with this massive humor. And I've got true demoralization over here.
No, Denver used to be a cool city.
Yeah.
And I've been following a little bit. Tig from Benghazi is running for mayor of Colorado Springs, where I've been a couple of times. Anyway, I knew that Colorado Springs has changed immensely in the 20 years since I've been there. But now I see what he's up against. And Denver is like, that's probably got to be the worst city in Colorado.
We need an exorcism, in Denver, please.
What a bunch of ugly people. And, once something hits the mall, like everybody doing all this like weird, deviant sexual acting out, there's nothing cool about it at this point.
Well, why are they're pushing for turning sports gay? Like, hey, this is the gay games. Like, you need to know who they prefer sexually before you watch the track and field. Like, what? It's crazy. What? Just host another games, but it's got to be about sex.
Well, that's it. They're trying to normalize deviant sexual behavior. Whereas I said, there's a time and place for it. I'm not a prude. I'm certainly more of a prude now than I was, maybe in 72, snorting some coke kind of thing. But to celebrate it, I never boasted or never tried to get anyone else to do things that I knew probably were not healthy behavior for me. But it's such a freak show. And so much of it is aimed at influencing kids and this mutilating children's genitalia and castrating them. That Denver thing, boy, that was like a parade of cucks of the week. That was as cucky as you could get.
Collection of cucks.
I got a lot of cucks that could count.
Adrian comes to play when it comes to the cuck of the week. Okay, he wants it.
And I've been on a cuck losing streak. Silas is a master a master cuck, but that's not right.
Cuck finder. Cuck finder.
Cuck finder.
There you go.
Exactly.
You are the cuck master. That's that.
Cuck detective.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yep.
Hard to talk.
I'm gonna try to share my screen. I'm not great.
Yeah, you got it.
I did send it.
Oh, I can share it too. You want to try and share it though?
Maybe not live.
Okay, here, hold on. You sent it to my ex?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
Next.
Okay. Here,
The suspense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then afterwards,
I got high aim, but hopefully some
Here,
ammunition.
here, sorry, I'm a little slow on the screen share too. Hold on 1 second.
and then we vote for the winner afterwards, like a true democracy.
Eat your heart out, Arnold. I'm just saying. So the Terminator.
These memes of you riding a velociraptor with like a 12-pack and 2 freaking rifles in your hand.
I know I'm in good shape. How about my biceps? And this 10-pack, not even 6-pack.
You've also circumnavigated the globe. You've rescued many kittens and puppies, all while holding
Yes,
a
I
flag.
have. I know. I'm part of Superman 3 or 5 now. I'm sitting down there. Dinosaurs. I'm flying around. What the heck? By the way, I literally, honestly, this is not where I'm scrolling. So this is stuff that people send me, like my little nieces and nephews. They're all sending me this stuff. And I'm like, oh gosh, what is going on out there? Okay, there you go. Back to, look, I've been legit, right? You like the biceps?
You know what?
That's a real photo, by the way. This has not been touched.
Not a damn part of that was touched. Eat your heart out, Arnold. I'm just saying, to the Terminator. Come on, listen to me now and hear me later.
Oh my
And people are worried about that guy in 28. Jeez.
I am. Oh my!
He has the ability to hypnotize
That's
idiots.
right.
Do
I mean,
not
that's all you
understand
need,
it.
I guess.
No, he has the most colleges in his state in the country, and people don't vote; ballots vote. He absolutely would have been recalled. Gray Davis was a far more serious, popular governor, and he was recalled by Arnold. I lived in California. We're independent, but it's a lot of these freaks come to college and stay and go to work in the municipal government and election offices and the sanctuary city stuff. California, there is a blue ribbon on the coast, and the people that those people like laughing and, oh, that was so funny. Oh, you're too much. Those are the people that moved to California and are impersonating Californians. And me, my friends, my daughter's like my number one person that we confide to in this stuff. It's like, they think they're acting how they're supposed to act in California, and they really don't get it. It's a fake cool, and you can't force cool. You're cool or you're not.
Well,
And,
I have a clip of the definition of cool. if you guys are ready.
Uh-oh.
I'm scared.
Eat your heart out, Arnold.
Yeah. How'd you guys get video of that?
Wow.
I
Actually,
don't know what to make of that.
that's actually not a good cuck of the week because that guy's fucking badass. So
Definition of cool, like you said.
I don't know if I'd call him
Or
cool.
Uncle
He
Fester.
seemed cool when he smiled at the end, like he knew that he was ridiculous.
Right, yeah. I think he is self-aware, but
dang.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that's
so
cool.
I am on the fence of Steve or Silas. Dang, but Adrian had a good one too.
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Was
let.
Adrian Denver?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Right
I'm gonna.
on.
Let's let the guests decide here. What do you think, Karen? Which one
Well-
was the best cuck or the most cucky?
I'm gonna have to go with Denver because that was just like
And he's back.
that was crazy. It was the most repulsive,
Mhm.
disgusting, out of touch. It was the worst, and all of them had things that were disgusting, funny. I really did enjoy the Zelenskyy one because
That
he
was
does
great.
look like he wears pull-ups,
Mhm.
and he's such a little joke. He's such a little joke of a corrupt man. But the Denver thing, I think it's gonna like stay in my head like a catchy tune.
Oh, no.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be hard to forget that.
Yeah, and
I almost
meanwhile,
threw up.
downtown Denver is crumbling where there's always stabbings now. It's a big trend, and it's like an open asylum where people are just doing drugs, and it's the city has had to cut so many jobs because they gave like $200 or $300 million to illegal immigrants. But we're gonna get the gay games, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if we wanted to watch
crazy.
the gay games, we'd be watching the WNBA.
Yeah, they're already
Already
throwing the
have
dildo in
queer
preparation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll really get the green dildo sales up for sure. But yeah, who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? Carl Lewis, I think he was probably gay, but I didn't even think about it until he posed in high heels in starting blocks. But Carl Lewis was just a great runner.
Are they going to invite Caitlyn Jenner out, or is she not allowed to go to the gay game?
She voted for Trump, so
Yeah, not welcome. But do you really think Brody Jenner loves his dad as much now that he's cut his dick off or whatever he did? I mean, I would never do that to my kids. And who cares? I mean, if you want to dress in girls' clothes or do whatever, go move to a city and do it somewhere.
move to Denver.
You don't have to humiliate
No,
everybody. I just think that's the whole deal. My daughter-in-law talks about how much she loves her kids and she'd do anything for them. And I'm pretty straightforward with her. It's like, listen, man, you could be a queer privately. You don't have to move a bulldyke into the master bedroom and like humiliate your kids, especially in Texas. This is not Los Angeles, but anywhere. It's like my grandson's going into puberty. He doesn't want to see his mom be some fucking muff diver. Oh, I wasn't going to use dirty language. I say that for the grandkids.
Well, you
Anyway,
did,
yeah.
Karen, you did drop the T-bomb tonight. And you know what? I'm all about it. I got censored off of X pretty much. I mean, they didn't suspend my accounts, but they killed my account for saying the T word. And I'm still salty about it.
Wow.
And, whatever happened to that freedom of speech,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the T word is.
It's like
Another word for transmission.
Oh, is it like what I said about girls who take mustache pills? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
that's the one you can't say.
Yeah, I got in trouble with somebody who is famous in pretend world, at the Nashville Arena show. Somebody said that's nerd dork or dork nerd or something, like he's somebody with, 1 million or 2 million followers. And I just
Nerdrotic?
Huh?
Nerdrotic?
No, I think it's dork nerd. And he's a fat guy with long greasy hair. And anyway, I was just talking to him and I used that word. First I commented on something about fatties. And he's like, "Ooh, strike one." And then I said something else. I can't remember, retard or whatever. But then when I said something about, "Hey, I like trannies, but not all trannies. I like certain trannies," because that's it. I can't talk to you anymore. And then he put up a video about some J6 insurrectionist that might post something of him, but you should know that she's. I'm just like, why are you punching down? I'm nobody, you idiot. And it was just like, why did you mention the tranny thing and the retard thing, but you didn't mention the, the original sin of saying fat to you, fat slob? Anyway, I'm sorry that word got you in trouble. I
No.
really realized until the nerd dork or whatever his name is, I didn't even know that was not allowed.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, we
all
are
people I hang around with that are trannies, like Juanita from Kill Tony. I say they should not count the trannies as girls. I don't think girls should get special treatment in the bucket.
Yeah.
But if Tony's going to say, "Okay, we're going to pull till we get a girl," you should not count. I feel like I'm up on the blocks swimming against Leah Thomas.
That's
Everybody knows guys are funnier than girls.
That's
I shouldn't have to compete against a guy if those are the rules. I'm willing to compete, but if there's a girls category, tranny shouldn't be in it. And Juanita that's why she's a cool tranny. She's never like, we're called, she doesn't do that shit. She's just a normal person that is a transvestite. I don't know that I would want her to babysit, but I'm not bothered to be around her outside of the comedy thing. So anyway, cool trannies, don't mind tranny. It's just, once again, the virtue signals.
Say it a couple more times.
Hey, a granny can say tranny.
Yeah, we're talking about transmissions here. I don't know what you guys are thinking about.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what another lovely day in the post-republic. Will we return to a proper republic that Benjamin Franklin and the original founders bestowed upon us? Or will we continue to be a global empire and dominate the world and force Christianity down everyone's throats? Or will we just wither away? Well, either way, it's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Karen.
And no matter what, the world will end for each of us.
That's guaranteed.
Yeah. So, but let's keep fighting for Western Civ. Not perfect, but it's better than everything else.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks again, Karen.
Oh, thank you guys. I had so much fun. We really need to get together and just talk around the table sometime.
Yeah. Keep going. I'll be in touch.
Okay. It was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.